but there's no reason to be confrontational about it. You can still ask the questions. As Terry, as you said, you should ask those questions. But there's no reason to kind of step over into the meanness, the spirit of it.
Welcome to an episode of Franchise Feedback. My name is Terry Coker. I am here with Ray Fanning. Ray and I are both franchise consultants, and we help people find franchises. How you doing today, Ray?
I'm great, Terry. How are you?
I'm doing good. So on Franchise Feedback, here's what we do. We reach into our proverbial mailbag and we take a question out. And you told me that you have a question, I believe, from a woman in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely.
What's the question?
We have a question from Rena in Philly.
Hello, Rena.
Philadelphia, which is in Pennsylvania.
Thanks for the question.
We can tell Rena's been paying attention to us because at one of our recent mailbags, we talked about the phrase, "Don't call the baby ugly." Terry, that's one of your phrases that I love to use. Rena wants to know, what do we mean by "don't call the baby ugly"?
What a great question. Here's what we mean by that, Rena. Starting a business is very much like having a child, like birthing a baby, because you're birthing a business. And you watch that child or that business grow over the years. And so if you're engaging with a franchise company, chances are they had that birth event quite a while, and they've watched that, from infant to toddler to teenager stage, depending on the life cycle of franchise company. And they have invested a lot of money in that franchise. You won't spend nearly as much to start your franchise in your given territory as they've spent to develop the entire operation. And so they're very sensitive, to a lot of questions. And you can ask a question that might offend somebody. You could inadvertently call their baby ugly, and nobody wants to hear that. You don't want to ask the question in that way. So you just have to be conscious of the way that you phrase your questions. You should ask them. You should absolutely ask all the questions you have. Just don't frame it in such a way that you call their baby ugly.
Perfect. Well said, Terry. Well said. Only thing I'd add to that is I think this is about the attitude that we talk about. So when I use "don't call the baby ugly" with my folks, with my people, it's mostly about respect and being respectful.
Mm-hmm.
There are thousands of businesses and franchises out there. You will most likely, my people are looking at many different companies as they do their thorough educated decision process. And not all of them are going to be for you. And maybe you find things out about a company that don't fit you, and that's fine. But there's no reason to be confrontational about it. You can still ask the questions. As Terry, as you said, you should ask those questions. But there's no reason to kind of step over into the meanness, the spirit of it. I think our world can be mean enough, and we can get the information we need and still do it with a smile on our face. And since we're talking about "don't call the baby ugly," my grandmother, my Nana, used to always say, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Honestly, I think you'll get more answers, more information, so that you can make the better decision. Just be nice.
And when you're framing a question, a great way to ask it is, well, how did you learn to do it that way? Because if you're dealing with a seasoned franchise company, they've tried lots of things along the journey. And this is probably a learned experience on their side. And it may be the first time you're hearing it. So to say, well, that doesn't make any sense to do it that way, is calling their baby ugly. But when you reframe it and say, well, how did you come about doing it that way? They'll light up, right? And they'll pull out all the baby pictures, and you're going to get to see the 8mm, film from, 19 whatever. You will light them up with that question as opposed to asking it the other way. What a great question, Rena. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Rena. And thanks everyone for all your questions. We invite you to send them into us, and we look forward to reading them on the air.
We do, and we'll see you in the next episode of Franchise Feedback. Thank you.